All right, so Gary is spending the day with his daughter. She has a special event today, so you're going to get all of me. But as you can tell, he's usually the one that does all the tech stuff, so. Perfect, 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 perfect. Welcome, everybody. So happy to have you here. We've got a few new people on. Paulo, Elizabeth. Hi, Maria. Jean.
Hi, Ross. Hi, Jean.
Luigi, I haven't seen you. So where's everybody from? So kind of give you some of the way we normally do it for those of you who are new to this. This is an open discussion. Today's topic is going to be we're going to start it off at least about requests that somebody had last week about can the mind actually heal the body? So you can turn on your microphone and actually participate and in the actual conversation, or you can be a bystander, which is fantastic. We're still participating. We also have a chat box that's down in the below. And if you punch something into the chat, then I will be able to read your notes and your questions. So if you're shy, that's a fine way to go as well. So I know where Jean's from. I know Maria. Elizabeth, where are you from? Oh, I'm not hearing you. You gotta turn your microphone on.
Hang on one second.
There you go. There you go. Where are you from?
I'm from Atlantic Beach, Florida,
Nice.
but I'm originally from Minneapolis.
I'm actually originally from up by Duluth.
And
Little town called Cloquet, about 15 miles west of Duluth.
oh, now my sister lives in Finland.
Oh. Is she from Minneapolis as well and moved to Finland? Or?
Yes, we all are. I mean, they are, but they don't tell you can leave there.
That's funny. Yeah, I still have most of my family's from Norway, and I have not been there yet, but that is on my list. And I had a cousin who actually took a year off and literally went around knocking on people's doors. And they'd answer the door and he says, "Hey, I'm your cousin Scott. How are you?" And at the time when he did this, I was actually kind of young and didn't quite understand it. But now I live in envy with the fact that the way he was doing that. It was just amazing. But you know, he also has a great personality to do it as well. So, all right. So the question that was posed last week is, can the mind heal the body? And it's a very, very good question. And it's something that it's something that's very, very possible. And it actually could be very, very likely because actually the mind heals the body every day. The mind is always working, the brain is always working to create the proper nutrients, the proper hormones, your white blood cells, which battle infections. All of this is a healing process. Every night when we go to sleep, that is the only time of the day actually that our body heals. So the body is doing a tremendous amount of work while we're sleeping. And what this will do, well, this is why it is so important that we actually get a very, very good night's sleep. And there is some fallacies out there that it's kind of like, oh, I can sleep when I die. It's like, well, yeah, but that means you're going to die a lot sooner. Because your body requires that. People who get good night's sleep are going to live longer. They're going to be overall healthier. But these are autonomic processes. This just happens. So why is society getting so ill these days? And if we look at this in a cultural aspect, there's a lot of cultures that are sicker than other cultures. Well, You know, we're all the same body, virtually, the same body design. We're all human. So why do some cultures live longer, or why do some people in specific belief settings live longer? We'll use monks as an example. Um, there was someone who did a book a few years ago called The Blue Zones, and he did a study and he went to different countries, and he found that there were just certain regions of countries, or countries all the way around, or cultures. I would like to, this isn't by borders, but certain cultures that just simply lived longer, and he called those blue zones. And then he studied those blue zones to figure out what was different than, I don't think he really gave the other ones a zone color. And he found that they, in most cases, lived longer because one, um, they ate better. They ate a more natural type of diet. They had better relationships, with social relationships, whether it be with family or with friends. Very, very stressless lifestyle, which is, again, what all of this is what we're designed for as a body. The body is designed for this. It grew into this. And it really kind of started a kind of a craze, because, again, looking at these particular blue zones, we all heard about the Mediterranean diet, and he would find that different areas or different cultures would have, no heart disease in this particular culture, or no liver disease in this particular culture, or minimal cancer in this particular culture. And he was trying to put all of this stuff together. And this kind of exploded into all these different variables. But the most important part, well, nobody out of those zones really had the mindset to make themselves healthy, and yet they did. In other words, they didn't have this, I'm going to do this to be healthy. It was, I'm going to do this because this is the way we do it. This is the way that we live here. So it was natural for them. Now, when you come into more of the Western medicine, or the Western culture, we're a very, very go, go, go type of culture. A very, push yourself, push yourself, push yourself culture. A very stressed culture. A culture that is, has a minimal amount of people who are really, really concerned about the food that they eat. Basically, they just want to satisfy a hunger. And that is the fast food craze, because it's go, go, go. So I need something quick, because I'm only going to give myself half an hour to eat. When, again, going back to these other cultures in the blue zones, eating was almost a ritual. It was at least an hour long. And if it was a family type of style dinner, it was maybe 2 hours long. It was part of the day. It's just like, okay, dinner is in 2 hours, and it's going to last at least an hour and a half. So they're going to plan accordingly. The research on this is through the roof. If you go to the website for the science of, the study of noetic science, they have at least now 3,500, maybe 4,000 actual studies that they've done on how the mind itself can be focused to work towards what the body needs, to reset the body, and to actually, if we're already at that point where we're too late, is going in and saying, okay, let's figure out what the deal is here. So I have a heart condition. So can I focus my mind to go specifically put attention on the issue that I have with my heart? Now, it's not just the mind. So, for example, I have a doctor that I used to see. He's retired since, but 15, 16 years ago. And he's a naturopathic doctor. And a friend of mine wanted to go see him too. He says, wow, he really did a good job for you. He goes, I'm going to go see him as well. And in the interview, the doctor, gives you the list of, your lifestyles and all this kind of stuff. And my friend smoked. And the doctor just said, are you going to quit smoking if I start treating? He goes, no, I'm not going to quit smoking. He goes, well, then I won't treat you. He goes, there's no sense in treating you if you're going to continue with this poor habit that's going to affect your health. And we're kind of the same way in many cases where yes, I want to be healthy and I'm going to set my purpose towards it and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but I'm still going to go to McDonald's every afternoon because that's all I have time for. So it's not just a mindset, it's not just the ability to focus the mind, everything else has to go into place as well. And so if you look at there is a book, I can't remember her name, I'll look it up, Mind Over Medicine. Phenomenal book, absolutely phenomenal book. And this was a doctor who was very, very skeptical about everything that was going on. And she started hearing about some of these studies that were out there and wanted to kind of dig into it a little bit. And again, her studies and her research was like, yeah, this is okay, it's kind of still so-so. And she still kept digging and kept digging and kept digging. And then she just started stumbling more and more upon some amazing research. Now, what was getting in her way was the fact that none of the research was really done by Western trained medicine. And she was a Western trained doctor. So she already had a belief system that was ingrained in her of how research needs to be done. And so then she went a little bit further. So she started talking with some of these more natural healers and show me what you're doing. Tell me how this is working. How are you documenting this? How is this a double blind, etc. But then she stumbled upon some of the information that about the placebo effect. And you even know Dr. Lipton has done a book on the placebo. Joe Dispenza has done a book about the placebo because it really became the igniter, the match that just lit this craze. And what this does is that so for those of you who don't know what the placebo is like, if you have two pills, one is medicine and one is just a sugar pill. And a person is put into a study and you say, I'm going to give you one of two things. There's going to be one is either going to be medicine or it's going to be a sugar pill, but the doctors don't know which one it is, or the participants don't know which one it is, nor do the the people who are helping the doctors. Only the guy at the very, very head of the research team, because you don't want anything to interfere with this. So they would say, okay, if you get the medicine, these are the possible side effects. If you get the placebo, well, the placebo is basically neutral. And what they found was two very interesting facts. One, if somebody got the placebo, they would start to feel better because they thought it was the medicine. The second fact is if they got the placebo and they thought it was the medicine, they started suffering the side effects. They didn't get better, but they're like, oh, you said I must be getting the medicine because I'm getting these really, really, really bad headaches every time I take the pill. Or I'm getting these really bad stomach ache every time I take these pills. Now the doctors have to, again, this is why you don't want the people who are helping the doctors to know, because you don't want them to give any kind of a facial expression or like that. They're just like, oh, that's very interesting. Let me mark that down, because they don't know. Now, in my case, I'd like, seriously? I mean, I'd be a terrible doctor. I'm just like, really? Are you kidding me? So this is what's happening. So if you look at the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I mean, he's done some spectacular work, and he has been doing this for long enough that Western medicine researchers are starting to take his work seriously, because he on his own brought in all types of equipment and statisticians and started documenting what his meditations were doing for the body. Is everybody familiar with Joe Dispenza?
Yes,
Can you raise your hand?
it's very good.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yes. And so if you look at, I'm kind of a research freak, so I mean, I really like to look at the numbers and the charts and such. And if you look at the research that he's done and the documentation that he's done, you know, you'll see, you know, a progression of health. And I mean, they they don't just say, how are you feeling? They're doing blood work, they're doing scanning, they're doing EEGs, they're monitoring the entire body. So, and part of the reason that they're doing this is because they want to get that information down so they can take it to the medical researchers and say, listen, this is everything that we have right now. And they will, you know, they put it out there, and then it gets them their attention. They're like, oh, well, this is some pretty good research. Let me take a look. And it gets them more and more interested in what is actually going on as well. So that is, so what they've done is they've had instances of cancer disappearing. They've had instances of heart conditions disappearing. They've had conditions of physical ailments disappearing. And this isn't just his work. This is everyone's work that has been doing this for years. And all of this is with no medication. Part of my belief on this is because many of us are raised in a culture that all the answers are outside of us. We're like bringing our car to a mechanic. Oh, I'm not going to fix that. I'll get somebody else to fix that. And we always go outside. Oh, I'm not feeling good. I have to go to a doctor. Now, I am not disrespecting the medical community. Please don't get me wrong. But the idea here is to bring to the attention to everybody is that there's a lot you can do for yourself. There was another instance where a person had a physical disability, and when the doctor in her research was talking to this person, getting, you know, finding out what's going on, when did it start, what do you think about when you are experience this disability or this pain and such, and they brought it all the way back to something from the childhood, a trauma in the childhood, and they treated the trauma, and lo and behold, everything that was connected to that trauma dissipated. The trauma was locked up in the body. And this is again going to the research that a lot of people have been doing about the mind-body connection. And the idea with mind-body connection is the fact that there really isn't a mind-body connection, because there isn't a mind and there isn't a body. They are all one. We are just a giant transceiver, and everything works in unison. Has anybody that's on experienced any type of situation where you've done some sort of work and a physical ailment or has dissipated or disappeared? Raise your hand, put in the chat. Okay, I'll tell you my story.
I mean, I'm
Yes,
Ross.
go ahead, Jean.
Qigong. So Qigong is about healing your body,
Yes.
and that works very well. I'm in the group under the Spring Forest Qigong, and most of them are from America and Canada, who are the masters teaching, and it works, And apart from the body, it's also about the healing within your heart and also connecting to the universe, and all
Mhm.
that you will create a lot of beautiful feelings within your heart, and because a lot of stress factor is all mind, and if you could relax your mind and to realize that love begin within yourself, and a lot of things are all inside, it's inside out, and
Right.
when you it helps a lot. So the Qigong also helps a lot in terms of the healing process, that it says that there's a healer in every one of us.
Have you, using this technique, have you experienced a particular healing with that, where you had an issue and then now it's gone?
Yes, I had a neck ache here,
Mhm.
and so I attended the Qigong, and then they had this 7 days of the monk chanting. I attended the chanting.
Mhm.
I talk about it, and I put a note to them. And, and after some time, it was like I couldn't put it across. It was like a frozen, and now it's okay. I don't know whether it's due to that. It could be, most likely.
Okay. Well, I don't believe in coincidences. I'll give you a story of a good friend of mine, and I think I talked about this on a live stream or maybe a rabbit hole before. But a friend of mine, his father had really bad tinnitus. Are we familiar with tinnitus? It's a high pitched ringing in the ears. It can be debilitating, and a lot of soldiers get it because of all the noises they experience when they're at war. But other people can get it as well. So anyhow, I was talking to him, and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I had to take my dad to the emergency because he fell because his tinnitus got so bad, it just dropped him to his knees and he hit his head." And oh my God, so long as he had this tinnitus? He goes, "Oh man, he's had it for like, you know, 15 years." And I'm like, "That's horrible." He goes, "It's just getting worse and worse and worse." And I'm like, as I said earlier, I'm kind of a research buff, and I said, he said, you should take him to my acupuncture. And he goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, I've read research that shows that, it can help with tinnitus. And so he talked his dad into going to see this acupuncturist. And I think he went through 6, maybe 8 treatments, and it went away. And so I happened to run into his dad probably like 10 weeks later after he finished his treatment. I'm like, "Hey," I said, I hear that your tinnitus is gone, and that my doctor really, really helped you. I'm so glad." And he goes, "Yeah, well, he goes, I'm not really sure if it was some guy just sticking needles in me that made it go away." So what does that tell you? It tells you that his earlier belief system was starting to override what actually happened. It had to come forward just because it was so ingrained in him. And I literally just called BS right to his face. I'm like, "That is a bunch of BS." I said, "You cannot experience something for 15 years that literally drops you to your knees and then get a different type of treatment that you've never had, and that issue goes away completely, and tell me that the two are not related." But I hear this all the time. I had a client of mine who had a heart condition, and he lived in Australia. And I'm coaching him over the phone, going through a lot of things, but primarily in his case, especially when it's long distance like that, I was taking him through some EFT techniques. Everybody familiar with EFT? Emotional freedom technique. It's tapping. And After about 6 weeks, he went to the doctor. Doctor literally gave him a clean bill of health because your blood pressure is down, everything is working fine, all of your metabolics are right in line. You're doing very, very well. Keep up the good work. The next call I had with him, he said almost the exact same thing. Well, I don't know if it really had anything to do with what we're doing here, but yeah, I'm feeling better. That old belief had to come back up and reinforce itself. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth. Turn on your microphone. There you go.
So I think that this is just the inverse of what you're saying is true also, Gary, and I experienced that myself. When I was in 4th grade, which is about 8 to 10 years old, I experienced something. I don't remember what happened, what triggered it, but I wanted to get sick. And I wanted to get sick so that I would get attention. I was craving attention from my family, from my parents.
Yes.
I was the oldest of 5 and I prayed. And then on to top it off, I imagine, I don't really remember how it happened, but I went outside in the winter in Minnesota. And when I eventually got pneumonia and it settled in my kidneys and I didn't feel sick. But what ended up happening is my mother took my temperature and it was 107.
Wow.
Which is, and she tried several thermometers, ended up taking me to the emergency room. They admitted me to the hospital and the pneumonia settled in my kidneys. And I was in the hospital for a month. And the lesson that came to me through all of that is I hated the attention. It was not what I wanted. It was not, I could not stand all of the cards and all of the gushiness. It wasn't authentic. And it was for specifically because of the illness. People really love when someone gets sick. They kind of rally around it. I think they get joy out of maybe seeing you. I don't know. I see that now. People, it's like drama. It's like, and it's like negative attracts negative.
Well, in many cases, sometimes it's getting to that situation where now it's a superiority complex.
Yes.
You're
But
like,
I
oh,
had to go
well,
through, I had to go through this, Gary. I had to go through this to experience wishing for something, number one, that would come through, manifesting. At the time, I didn't even realize it. I also had to be able to get in touch with my own power, which I still don't think I understood it then, but now I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was rallying around who I was and what I needed, which I could not get what I needed from my parents. And of course, I think that connects exactly to your mind too. Just exactly what Jean said, that I think it was Jean that said, we have to love ourselves. We have to find it in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to go outside of ourselves to find acceptance and love. It's here.
Exactly. And along with that love, we also have to forgive ourselves. That is one of the key factors that I have found in a lot of the work that I've done, is that there can be a lot of underlying guilt as well. But you're absolutely right with the need for attention in many cases is the person that's kind of a secondary. And you can work with somebody over and over and over again, and they're just not making that progress, even though you've been working on the issue that, they brought to you, and it's like, this is my issue and this is what's going on and such. But then, as you start to go further, you're like, you know what, that's not the issue. There's a secondary, there's an underlying condition that they're possibly not even aware of. And that's sometimes the hardest one to deal with, because it's the true condition. It's the really deep condition. So you're absolutely spot on.
Years later, I went on a transformational retreat with a local psychologist and his wife. His wife did Kundalini yoga, and he did sessions with us.
Mm-hmm.
And my posture was really pulled in, like I was protecting my heart all the time. My shoulders were in, and he said, you have to put your wings back. And he said, but what he recommended I did is to lay on the bed and put my hands in the place where I sensed pain existed and just sit with it as long as I needed to identify what it was and let it come out.
And what happened?
I didn't do it. That's the problem. If
Okay.
we don't take it on, someone can tell us all this stuff, Gary, but if we don't take it on and do it ourselves, no one can heal us. We have to heal ourselves. So years later, I've worked through many, many different things, and I've come to understand myself so much better. I'm still not done, but at the time it was I wasn't ready for that, but I did listen to him and I heard him, but I didn't want to take the time. I think I was afraid. Maybe it's because, and we kind of get so used to it, we like our pain.
That's it. And I really respect you for admitting that.
Yeah, Ross, if I could mention, I think just now what you say is a very strong statement, is that we must learn to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
We have to forgive. We may have a lot of anger. Anger, like for example, if Elizabeth, if don't mind, I say it, I don't know much, but if I could share, let's say, for example, you could have been upset with your parents for not giving the attention that you wanted, or whatever along the way, you didn't have it and you hold it in your heart. You thought that you have let go, but it's still there. Until you let go completely, understand it, cry, get angry about it, having understanding, having get angry about it, then you say, I let go. Once you completely let go of that feeling, you will feel a sense of relief, and you will be able to accept many things within your heart, and to be able to accept love, because love is all flowing inside our heart. It's to let it go. All the love that we have, it's not that the monk has more love than us, or we have less than them. It's all the same within us. It's the level of how much it flows out within us, how much we accept it and allow it to flow by understanding it. So to let go pain, to let go all that, is to forgive. So Gary, Ross, whatever you say was true. We have to start understand the anger, then we have to forgive. And once we forgive, to really forgive is to really let go. And then the whole love process will come out and you can embrace many things.
Exactly. And there are two key points in what you just said. And to clarify, when we're talking about forgiving, we're forgiving ourselves. I know everyone reads a lot of things that you need to forgive this person, you need to forgive that person, and that's all good and well, and it's very, very true. But where a lot of the teaching that's going on out there is dropping the ball, is that they're forgetting about, we need to forgive ourselves for everything. And you don't just, there's specific things that have happened in your life, in your past, that have just been weighing back here. They will just kind of come up. And when they come up, you just say, you take a few minutes and you just say, I forgive myself for this. I'll do my EFT with a lot of my clients. And that is the number one. It's like, you need to forgive yourself. And there will be a pause. They'll just like, I'm gonna just do it. And then in many cases, you'll see an emotional release. And it's very, very powerful. And then the second point, Gina, you made is, again, I really just want to stress the fact that we need to allow ourselves to do all of this. We need to allow ourselves to forgive. We need to allow ourselves to love ourselves, love those around us, and and get out of the blame game, get out of the I'm angry game, get out of the, whether it be woe is me or woe is the world. We need to just love this, what is happening. mean, the life that we have currently today is absolutely wonderful. It really is. It is spectacular. Humanity is on a precipice. We're at a point where we're pushing through, we're that butterfly that's pushing through the cocoon, trying to get out. And when that is happening in nature, there's absolute chaos. Think of the chaos of this little cocoon and this butterfly trying to get out. That's just going to be pure chaos. But then when it gets out, then it's free and it's breathing and it has the sunshine, it has the air, it has the water and such. And this is kind of what I feel that we're going through now, is that
Yeah.
we are just going through these turbulent times, and depending on how you want to look at it, it's kind of like the old way trying to hang on to itself. When we've talked about the conscious and the subconscious mind, when we're trying to make real change, real enhancements in our lives, that subconscious mind is like, no, 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 I'm going to pull you back. I'm going to pull you back because this is where I'm comfortable. I like the chaos. I like the pain. I'm comfortable here. I know this. And we want to push consciously, we want to push out. We're that butterfly pushing out to get free, to have a better life. And we can do it for a little while until the subconscious is like, no, 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 this is just too unfamiliar. I'm not familiar with this yet.
Yeah, I think Ross, what you say was very true. There's two types of forgiveness. One is we forgive the person who hurt us, but more important is we have to forgive ourselves for feeling the anger.
Yes.
I think many of us forget about that part, that we need to forgive ourselves. Yeah,
Yes,
that
Jean.
that anger for so long. Once we forgive ourselves, after forgiving that person, we must forgive ourselves for getting angry with that person, even though the person was wrong, but we felt this anger. So when we are able to let go, then the healing will start. I think Elizabeth wanted to say something. Maybe Elizabeth can talk. Yeah. Eh, she went off.
Oh, she may have lost her connection too.
Yeah. She
Uh,
left.
yeah, she had something came up, so she had to drop off.
But I agree with you, Jean. That's true. If I started with forgive myself, I was crying a lot. There was so much pain in my heart. Oh my gosh. I was crying and crying, but then I'm feeling very, very good. And so it is very important to forgive, yes.
Okay. Someone has a question here, is why do we need to forgive ourselves for our emotions? It's normal to have emotions. We need to forgive ourselves for knowing better. Oh, for not knowing better. Okay. Um, we're not talking about forgiving ourselves for our emotions per se. We're forgiving, it's not our emotions that we're forgiving. We're forgiving ourselves for actions that we may or may not have taken. We're forgiving ourselves for what we have done. I mean, I may have a bad feeling about an event or a person, and I don't necessarily have to forgive myself for that. And so it's because you're right, emotions are just normal. However, when our emotions get stuck in a loop, or they start to control or direct our actions in one way or another, then we have to take another look at it. So just to have an emotion isn't a very, very normal thing. But you have to look, I'll give you an example from my life. Probably, yeah, it's been about 30 years. 30 years ago, I went through a very, very bad divorce. And and there was just a lot of situations that came up, and I was so angry, so angry with my wife at the time, and because we had children who were involved and they were hurt, and I ultimately ended up taking custody of both the kids, and and she kind of abandoned them for for other reasons. But anyhow, I was so angry, and I had to work with my children so that they weren't living in this anger and this hurt. And the best thing that I could do for them and for myself was to forgive her. And my son, who was hurt the most, he just took this the hardest. He said, "Why are you going to forgive her? You didn't do anything. She did it." And I'm like, maybe, maybe not. You know, I'm sure at some point, um, her perception of me, something I said, something I did, or whatever, um, instituted or not maybe began this, but fed into it. And so I have to take some responsibility because I was part of the interaction. And when I got them through that issue and got myself through that issue as well, I felt better. I'm just like, okay. And this was one of my first experiences, conscious experiences of literally changing my reality. Because as soon as I forgave her, now when I'm saying I forgave her, I didn't go up to her and say, "I forgive you." I forgave her in my heart. And within a matter of days, maybe weeks, all of a sudden, there was this 180-degree turn in our relationship. And then we started having better conversations. Now, when I say better conversations, that's in contrast to the way the conversations were earlier. They weren't very nice. But then all of a sudden, I just let go of the anger. When I forgive myself for whatever, for whatever my part was in that event, again, my perception changed as well. And I started to see this person who we had been at odds for. Now, at this particular point, it had been a couple of years. We had been at odds for a couple of years. I just started to see this person as a person, not as the person who hurt me, not as the person who hurt my children, not physically, mind you, but not, and I just started to see this person as a person, and kind of as the person I first, initially fell in love with. I'm just like, oh, okay, she's, is she back to normal? Or is my perception different? Or both, a little bit of both. But that forgiveness, that forgiving made a huge difference. My daughter made a 180-degree change. And you could see the difference in her. My son, he still had difficulties with it. And it was one of those issues where I was kind of forcing him, or just not really forcing him, pushing him. And there was just a lot of resistance. I'm like, okay, this will work itself out in time. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time because my ex-wife eventually passed away from an illness, which again leads us into the topic that we were originally talking about. Because I don't know if she ever forgave anyone or forgave herself. But ultimately what had happened, she was so angry at the world. She was so angry at everything And I, at one time had told her, I said, I says, you need to come to terms with this anger that you have built up, or it's gonna eat you up. And it did, because she ultimately had got cancer and passed away. But this is where we're talking about, who was it that, in Eunice, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. This is where we're talking about forgiveness. These things that we hang on to, those are what we need to forgive, because those are what are counting. A random thought, or I really don't like that person, isn't really much. Okay, it's just a choice. But to put yourself in a situation where, that person annoys me, I really don't like that person, now I really don't hate that person, now I really hate that person, now I'm going to do whatever I can to make that person's life miserable. Now I'm going to, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows, when as soon as you forgive yourself for that and forgive that person, all of this collapses. Because that anger and that hate is virtually a belief system. And if you pull that foundation out from underneath that belief system, it will just collapse, and everything that's connected to will collapse. And that is why belief systems can be so powerful or so destructive. And when we're talking about going, using the power of the infinity matrix, in this case, this is what we're talking about, is just to simply, when we say question everything, we're saying question yourself. This is what I'm doing, and this is why. And then asking yourself, why is this why there? Okay, what is connected to this? What is the foundation of this action that I'm taking, or this belief? Where did this belief system come from? And then you can make the choice of, I choose to keep it, or I choose to let it go. Because those belief systems are running your life. If your life is going exactly the way you want it to be, and is fulfilling all of your intentions, then by all means, don't change a thing. But if only partially there, then there's a belief system that is create a ceiling for you. You're getting here, but that you just keep hitting that ceiling. You can't get to that next level. There's a belief system. That ceiling is a belief system that says you don't deserve, or you're not good enough, or whatever the case. That's when we start to question, why can't I get past this? We want to talk about income. You've heard of income ceilings, where there's just this level, I just can't get past, making this much money. I just can't get past it. I don't know why. I'm working so hard. I just can't get past this level. There's a belief system that says that's what you deserve. And then we go deeper into that belief system, is like, who implanted this belief system in me? Was it my parents? I found this at one time. I just had an income ceiling, and I just, really did a lot of focusing on it and trying to figure out where that came from. And I remember my stepfather at the time, back when I was younger, he had said something to me that just stuck about how to make money, or how not to make money. And as soon as I released that belief system, then I broke past that ceiling. So whenever we are in life, and this still pertains to the original subject matter, whenever we're in life and we are finding that we just simply can't get past something, there's something behind you. There's a belief system that is charging that. It's like, oh, no, no, you can't do that. And it just pulls back the reins. No, you can't. No, you can't do that. You told me, or somebody told me, that we can't do this. So I might let you get past it a little bit, but I'm always going to bring you back. You've heard where they talked about people who have won the lottery. You know, they won $1 million. And 3 years later, 5 years later, they're broke again. Okay. And people say, well, they just, you know, they just didn't have good spending habits. Says, well, that's part of it. But again, it's a belief system. Now, those belief systems are also just as powerful when it comes to our health and to our bodies. When we are calling diseases my disease, my cancer, my diabetes, my arthritis, my this, when we are hanging on to those and we're taking ownership of a disease, when we use the terminology, I'm going to fight my cancer, but the cancer is your body. It's a symptom though of your body. So are you going to fight your body? Am I going to fight cancer, or am I going to take that same thought process and redirect it towards, I'm going to increase the health of my body? See the difference? I'm going to make my body stronger. And this is what a lot of the different meditations that are out there do. So it takes a lot of that. It makes a transformation, and it makes you greater than your environment. It makes your mind greater than your body, so that it can now harness its own power that it's always had. And this is one of the big breakthroughs that a lot of these researchers that have been focused on this have been using, is that they're like, you know, the body can do this, but we've become so conditioned to go find a stranger, in most cases, a doctor in a white coat, and he has all the answers. And he or she has been conditioned, well, let me give you a pill for that. Or let me give you an injection. Or I have a knife, we'll just cut that problem out and make it go away. Ignoring or not being aware of that we are one complete system from head to toe. So when we remove something from our bodies, which it has to happen at times, but when that's our first option, well, we have to cut it out. Well, yeah, but it's part of the communications. It's part of my communication system in my body. So what happens to that communication system? And they're discovering more and more. I mean, they didn't know up at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you know, the heart's connection to the mind. There's actually more neurons in the heart than there are in the brain. And it's more powerful. So that's that connection here. It's like, well, you know, then now just in the last 10 years, they're discovering, you know, the power of our microbiome. This is why diet is so important. So much in our body and our energy is controlled by our microbiome, literally the bacteria that's in our bodies. If we take an antibiotic, that's going to wipe out 3/4 of the good bacteria, the powerful bacteria that's in our microbiome. And again, sometimes that's necessary. But if we don't take action after taking those antibiotics to rebuild that bacteria so that it can do what it's supposed to do, then in many cases, in a lot of cases, that bad bacteria can kind of take over, and then we don't feel good. We have low energy. Our joints start to get stiff, and it just can grow and spread into the rest of the body. Doesn't mean it can kill you, but it means that you are not going to be at your optimal health. You know, when I go to a doctor, I see a doctor once a year, a Western trained doctor, and he knows it and he hates it, but I have my mindset is that, yes, you're a doctor and I respect your knowledge, but you work for me. I am paying you for a service. So I'll walk in, I'll give him my list of tests that I want him to run. Okay, this may or may not be the symptom. I'll normally just run just a full panel by a metabolic panel. But if there's something else, you know, I have certain tests that are in that list and I said, run these tests, send me the results. I'll email you with any questions. And he's like, why do you need this? Why do you need this? Why do you need this? And I said, well, this tells me this, this tells me this, this tells me this. You don't know about these tests? Well, I know about them, but I've never done it like this. I was like, well, this is what keeps me, you know, on top of my body. So my point is that I have no disrespect for the medical community, but I have more respect for my body and my mind's ability to deal with the issues that come up. And they do come up. They come up for everybody. Because we are living in an environment now that is not really conducive to health. So when we start to learn these different techniques that we can look at, you know, the symptom has arisen, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. Is this environmental? Is it a sensitivity to a food that I'm eating? Is it, you know, is it a movement or something that I have done that has caused this? You know, we just have to step back and take that time and take that breath and go, okay, what's going on? What am I feeling? And let your body communicate. Your body is always communicating to you, but we have forgotten how to listen. So I think I one of the live streams I talked about, or maybe it was the art of designing a reality, and I talked about quite some time ago, about 15 years ago, I got really sick. So I had mercury poisoning, which is part of it. But there was a lot of other issues too. And my doctor at the time, he's a naturopathic doctor, and you know, he goes, this was my first introduction to all of this in most cases. And he looked at me and says, you know, this doesn't just happen. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I got a feeling that your body's been telling you this for a long time and you weren't listening. And finally, he just decided to knock you upside the head and say, listen to me. And I'm just like, no, you're probably right. And then he would kind of list off a couple of the, you know, the other symptoms, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I'm just like feeling embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, that was happening too. He goes, yeah. He goes, this was all your body trying to tell you, I'm hurt. I'm not doing well. I need you to do this. I need you to slow down, because I was kind of a go-go. I was an executive, and I just, you know, was just pushing. Everything was all about work. I was an absolute workaholic, and everything was about work. And he goes, to be honest with you, looking at your panel, he goes, I don't even know how you got to my office. I'm like, well, he goes, and this is probably why you're sleeping 14 hours a day, because your body is so damaged, because I wasn't listening to it. And it's something that we've just forgotten how to do, or never realized we can. What we said before, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know my body could talk to me like this. It doesn't talk to you in English, it talks to you in sensations, it talks to you in pain. But that's the first step to your mind making a tremendous impact on your body. You have to know what's going on. It's like when, Gene, it's like when in the art of designing your reality, the 7-day, when we talk about abundance, you don't just say, I want to be rich, I want a new car. It's pretty vague. It's just the same thing as like, I want to be healthy. What the heck does that mean? There's different levels of health. So when we have, say we're diagnosed with a heart condition, we can set our intention, we can set our mind. We have to do some research. Unless you like pills, unless you like shots, unless you like, all this other stuff, or surgery, is we have to do some research. Okay, what exactly is my heart lacking? What exactly is going on? Now, if it's like a physical defect, you something that your heart, you weren't born, it was just something you've had since birth, that's a little bit different and such. And there are exceptions to everything that we're saying. This is not a one size fits all. But there's that ability to say, okay, you have a heart condition, this is what's going on. Going back to what we were talking about last week or 2 weeks ago on asking better questions. If you have a doctor in front of you and such, you should have a list of questions. A lot of questions, good questions. What is it lacking? I don't think it's lacking that medication. It's lacking something else. But what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Tell me what it needs. And I'm going to go in that direction first. I'm going to focus my intention. I'm going to focus my mind. Start to really grab some of this meditation, adding laughter into your life. Absolutely reducing stress. What's going on in your body when you are stressed is murder. I mean, it is. It's just it's killing your body. When you are in a stressed mode, your body is not doing what it's normally doing, which is healing or rejuvenating itself. You look at the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems and what happens between the two. If we're in a fight or flight mode, we all understand that comes from our primal upbringing, evolution and such. Fight or flight is the tigers coming after us, adrenaline, cortisol, everything surges to get us out of the danger. Okay, not many of us, some of us, not many of us are going to be face to face with a tiger. But we can be face to face with a bad driver on the freeway. We can be face to face with a bad coworker or a bad boss or a bad relationship or a bad blah, 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 constantly. We can be on social media and looking at or watching the news and looking at all this other stuff going on in the world, saying, and oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is terrible, this is horrible, this is horrible. All of this is affecting your fight or flight system. Your brain is perceiving it as danger and is preparing your body to handle that. The human body was designed to be in fight or flight. I believe it was for a maximum of 4 minutes. In other words, it's going to pump all this emergency hormones and chemicals into your system so you can run or fight, defend yourself. Okay, it makes you stronger. It sends blood to different parts of your body so that you can do what you need to do to survive. Now, what exactly is happening when we're running or we're fighting? We're utilizing those chemicals and we're pushing them through our body. What happens if we're in fight or flight and we're sitting in our car? Those chemicals are released, but nothing is pushing them through the body. And our body is a giant pumping system. There's only one self-actuating pump in the entire body, and that's the human heart. Everything else is based on our body's movements. So I'm sitting in the car, I'm stuck on the freeway, there's jerks all around me, I'm so pissed, I'm so upset, I'm late for work, or I'm late for my meeting, or I'm late for whatever and such, and all these chemicals are surging into my body. And I have no way to push them out. So they sit there and they rot. They're like acid. They just rot. So then I finally get to work for my destination. And the person that I'm supposed to meet with is upset. So now what happens? I go back into fight or flight, and all those chemicals are surged into my body again because I'm stressed. Am I going to go run around the block? Probably not. So then I get that situation all calmed down. And then I get on social media, or I turn on the TV to, I watch some relaxing news, okay. Oh my God, look what's happening in the world. Fight or flight. Chemicals again. Am I going to go run around the block? No. So what do? They sit in my body and they rot. And this goes on and on and on. Day after day after day. This is what modern society is doing to us. Now, when we go into the other mode, that's going to be more of a meditative state, a more calming, a joyful state. When you're in that state, which is where you're supposed to be 99% of the time, your body is growing, your body is healing, your body is calming down, your body is better connected to the universe.
That's so true.
And then generally we're going to go for a walk. We might go for a walk. We might go, or you go for a run or whatever. People who are more joyful. Go ahead, Maria.
It is so simple. A little bit of meditation, and that's so winning. It's very simple. Oh my God.
And this is really just the first stage. So when we talk about, I'm not feeling well, and where I'm going with this conversation is to sum up, yes, the mind can heal the body. But how about we do a little bit more preventive maintenance and not get the body to that point. Okay, this is not a, I'm not a nutritionist. Well, some people say that I am, but I'm not. But this isn't about eating right and all that kind of stuff. All of that is part of the whole picture. He says, but right now we're just focused on the mind. Okay, because sitting in traffic and getting upset at that person and going into fight or flight is all in your mind. Sitting and calming down and feeling joy is all in your mind. So not only can the mind heal the body, it's your best doctor. It's preventative. And if you're in a situation where, okay, you've learned your lesson, for the lack of a better term, you've learned and now you're ill, you have an illness. The mind got you there, so now let's get the mind to get you out of it. And the research is sound. Go to the Institute of Noetic Science and look at their research. You know, go on YouTube and look at some of the interviews with Dr. Joe Dispenza or Dr. Bruce Lipton. All of them are talking about, you know, this is what the mind can do. It has so much power, but we just haven't been taught how to use it, how to make it work for us, or make it work really, not so much for us, but the way it's supposed to work. This isn't the man pushing us down. Again, we're trying to push this outside of us when everything is inside of us. We always want to go external with stuff when we should be changing that to coming back inside. When you feel yourself blaming out there, something in your past created that belief system. Change it. Make it work for you. You have a lot more control than you think you do. And the research is sound. And this is, again, this isn't airy-fairy kind of stuff. I mean, it was, 20, 30 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, well, actually they were right. It wasn't so much airy-fairy. It's just like, it was just really more of the presentation. It's just like, they just didn't come off right. But now it's just like, no, this is solid. This stuff works. And it works very, very well, very, very effectively. Change your environment if you have to. Change your relationship if they're making you sick. That doesn't mean leave, but it means have a conversation. If you're in a bad relationship, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be, it's like, this isn't working for me as it's defined now. We need to change the definition of this. This needs to be a two-way. This needs this, or this, or need. This is what I need because this is making me sick. How does your body feel when you come home to your spouse or to your significant other? How does your body feel when you walk into your job, when you walk into the office? This is all communication. It's all communication. And again, there has been, documented situations where someone has gotten out of a relationship because everything they tried to make it work wasn't working. And finally, I have to go. And all of a sudden, their health completely changes for the better. People that will leave stressful jobs. Okay. And then their health completely changes for the better. People that move from a particular environment to another environment. something can be done. Anybody who says that there's nothing that I can do, I bet there is. I bet there is. Okay, you might not have the answer. What did Einstein say? That you can't fix a problem with the current thinking that got you into the problem. So that's what coaching is all about. That's when you're finding somebody, a third party, or maybe a friend. I like personally when I really have a really tough situation, I like to find somebody who is neutral. So somebody who, isn't going to tell me what I want to hear. It's like, this is what I'm hearing you say. This is probably what you want to, the direction that you want to start thinking. That's what I do with people that I'm coaching. Like, this is what you said, but this is not, but it's what you said, but it's not what you think you know. So let's work on that first. And again, generally it's that foundational belief. But all of this is in your mind. And that has a bad connotation because all that's just in your head. Well, no, you're right, it is in my head. Okay, this is my perception. So I need to change my perception. Any questions? This is really not supposed to be the Ross hour today.
It's very well said. Yeah. And, as what Maria said, actually, once you understand it, it's really quite simple. But to go to the stage, to go through the process of acceptance and letting go, it's not easy. But once
Yes.
you understand it and you accept it and you let go, then it's very easy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, and a lot of people need to go through this, really, because there are a lot of people who are unhappy and they are sick and there are many issues, but they do not know why. And they don't believe that they can heal themselves. By natural fact, they can heal themselves, yeah. If they can try to understand why they're feeling the way they are feeling, and then to accept it or to feel the pain and then to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes that hardest part is finding the why.
Yes.
The why or the what or the, or how did I get here? And
also, you say, Ross, is that the two things of forgiveness, forgiving the person and forgiving yourself for angry.
correct.
Because once you're able to forgive the person, even the person is wrong and you let go, you actually are free of it. You become a totally different person and different perspective, and you're able to embrace life in such a more beautiful way. And
Exactly.
it just fall into place. Yeah.
That's
So that I think that is one of the good things is that growing older and more mature, this is the benefit,
Yes.
I was going through troubles and everything when I was very young and all kinds of things. I don't know how to think this way. But having gone through it, so Maria is good. Maria is very young and she already knew about it.
Right.
You must have been very young, Maria. Yeah, to be able to feel it this way. Yeah, for us, it's like a long process to go through, and then now to understand it, embrace it. But it's worth it because we have only one life, and as what Bruce said, it's to make the heaven on earth here.
Exactly.
And to make a heaven on earth here is to feel it so that we can embrace that heaven. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And it's kind of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about bringing this kind of a thought process to a younger generation, to schools.
Yeah.
And so I mean it would be such a different world if or when we bring younger people to this type of a thinking process earlier in life.
True, Ross. So it's so invaluable because you see, we took so long to arrive because we were never taught and we never know any better and we don't know.
Exactly.
So we took such a long process to understand. But if there is, like as you said, the way you conceptualize it and to show this to the younger ones, especially when they are still in the, in the, let's say, after about 8 years or 9 years in school, or when they're in high school or just college or just university, because too young, they cannot fully comprehend everything yet. But at a certain age, let's say when they are around 17, 16, that's when they begin to understand. And when they go to university at 19, 20, I think that's a very good time that if they can be exposed to this, wow,
Yeah.
they, at least we will have a whole circle, a new population of people, new youths who can learn to be more loving, more embracing, and we will have a better world. And they also will become the leaders of tomorrow, and the leaders will be better.
Yeah.
So then the future for the unity in diversity and to have the universal love would be more attainable.
That's it. That was perfect, Jean. I could not have said it better, and we're going to wrap it up. So we've kind of gone over, which is normal. I appreciate everybody being here today. And if you have any more comments or questions, put them in the comments section in the stream, which is on the group page, and we'll answer them. So thank you so very much. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your weekend. I know I
Yes.
will.
Always.
It's finally cooled off here in the Northwest.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Maria, Marina, and Eunice. Thank you for being together. Yes,
It's absolutely my pleasure. I want everybody to just enjoy life, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.